Hello everyone. I would like to share some of my thoughts on Slater Zavala's book on ethnic studies in schools, especially in the US context. To be honest, before reading, I have little ideas about ethnic studies, and I used to relate ethnic studies to multicultural education, meaning I think ethnic studies involves the teaching and learning of the different cultures and histories of different groups of people around the world. Um, and uh, and I also assume that ethnic studies is similar to a Vietnamese branch of study or discipline called Dân tộc học, uh, studying the cultures of different groups of people, different races around the world. And I wonder, what is ethnic studies? Is it a discipline, a social movement, a theory, or an ideology? So after reading the book, I think ethnic studies can be different things. And the authors have advanced my knowledge about the roots and developments of ethnic studies, its nature and purposes, especially the seven hallmarks of ethnic studies that shape and inform how it is implemented in the US curricular pedagogies. The impacts of ethnic studies on the students' engagement and academic achievement and their identity affirmation, etc. Apart from the importance of research on ethnic studies, I can also learn about the future orientations of ethnic studies in the US context. Mm. So, rooted in the Black struggle of the 1930s and the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, ethnic studies is an anti-racist colonial project. Then I think ethnic studies share the some key tenets of critical theory, um, and it seeks to rehumanize education for students of color or different um, marginalized groups of people whose knowledges and histories, voices, and beings have been historically and continuously subjugated, silenced, or distorted in the dominant narratives, especially in the Eurocentric and US-centric schooling systems. And its central purpose is to build solidarity across different racial and ethnic differences for the purpose of working towards social justice. I highly appreciate the author's proposal of the seven hallmarks of ethnic studies based on the existing ethnic studies literature and the different examples of ethnic studies curricular and program across the US. Although the authors do not explicitly highlights the roles of different critical theories in uh, formulating these hallmarks, I think there is a strong connection uh, between these critical theories and the seven hallmarks. So, to my understanding, critical theory aims to critique society, cultures, and power, ideology, in order to challenge and question um, the different forms of oppression shaped by the power relations around the world. And the standpoint theory um, posed that an individual's social position, especially of those who are oppressed and marginalized, will shape their perspectives and produces the knowledge that is situated rather than being objective and neutral. That's why marginalized groups of people can offer critical insights into how power operates in our society. And the colonial theory um, um, ho- uh, holds that the different forms of oppression still, uh, especially the coloniality of knowledge, of power, of being, culture, etc., still persist even after formal colonialism. So the colonial theory, the centers, the whites, the dominant narratives, and centering the marginalized groups of people's voices, knowledge, and histories and cultures, uh, etc., towards the social transformation and social justice. Intersectionality focuses on the different forms of oppression shaped by the intersecting powers, relation powers regarding the people's gender, race, class, sexuality, abilities, etc. And critical pedagogy um, assumes that education as a site of struggle, empowerment, and transformation and emancipation. Um, so people need to promote their critical consciousness of how power operates in society, especially in the educational setting, in order to work towards social transformation. And so sociocultural theory assumes that learning takes place in social interactions and maybe community engagement. Um, so these theories, I think, inform the seven hallmarks of ethnic studies in an interrelated ways rather than separately. So the first hallmark, curriculum as counter narrative, then it means that what is taught um, in uh, in education should come from the perspectives of people of color or the marginalized groups of people, um, so that they can um, challenge and question the silencing or the distortion of their histories, their cultures, and their knowledge. The second hallmark is criticality. As I said earlier, ethnic studies has a critical stance, uh, just like any other critical theories. So it helps to analyze the structural racism, colonialism, and the different forms of oppression in order to enhance the students as well as the community's critical consciousness of how power operates in our society and in education, thus reproducing the different kinds of inequality as well as oppression. And through the counter narratives, the students can learn more about where they come from, um, and they can challenge the culturalizing processes that are usually supported by a white studies curriculum, so that they can reclaim the cultural identities, and they can learn more about their multiple social identities regarding their race, their ethnicity, their gender, etc. That and their positions within intersecting relations of power. And as rooted in social movements, I think ethnic studies also highlights the community engagement through community-based pedagogies and the different forms and kinds of research that involves the community, particularly the teachers and students and community organizers, etc. Um, and another key highlights of ethnic studies is that pedagogy that is culturally responsive and mediated, because ethnic studies is grounded in social movements and it takes a critical stance the pedagogy for ethnic studies uh, needs to consider the students, especially the marginalized students, uh, oppressive experiences and knowledges um, as as their assets, and learn from those experiences so that they can develop their critical consciousness, learn their own cultural identities, etc. And last but not least, students need to be considered as intellectuals. So, in order to promote the students as well as the community's critical consciousness of the power structures and the different forms of oppression, students need to be considered as intellectuals, as the future or potential agents of change, rather than passive knowledge receivers. So, because of the ongoing and non-stop different forms of oppression, especially in the educational setting, ethnic studies curriculum need to be adaptive and responsive and generative in a way that they can integrate the not only historical um, narratives, but also the current voices and knowledges and experiences of different marginalized groups of people in order to inform how those forms of oppression can be uh, addressed and can be challenged. So, my concerns include what might an ethnic studies curriculum look like when designed to speak to experiences of multiple racial and ethnic groups, particularly when the students are racially and ethnically diverse. I mean, in a really diverse population classroom context or school, then how can we decide which to select from? Um, like African American studies, Mexican American studies, Asian American studies, Native American studies, or all of them, and in which context is ethnic studies needed? From whose vantage point was any given body of knowledge constructed, and how does it benefit particular groups? I raise this question because when I think about my Vietnamese context, then I don't think it is suitable to take a critical stance in a Vietnamese context because although we have 54 ethnic minorities, and I bet there are some kinds of implicit marginalization, it's not proper in a Vietnamese setting to take a strong critical stance when studying these different groups of people. And finally, how does ethnic studies differ from critical multicultural education? So um, yeah, so that's my discussion on ethnic studies, and I look forward to engaging with you guys regarding this topic. Thank you.